All right, famous YouTube in a car video. So cliche, but I'm doing it. I want to do a quick video about why the federal government, the U.S. federal government, is not something you need to worry about as far as crypto, CBCD, or really doing anything in the near term with crypto and any crypto program, whatever's going on with the executive order, whatever comes back by the end of the year. And the reason is because the federal government is not good at doing things. And I'll give you an example. I work for the federal government by day, and I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. The federal government is great at doing a lot of things if the procedures are already all set in place and it doesn't have to compete for time, cost, or anything like that. And the reason, and which is exactly what they're going to be competing for with crypto. They're going to be competing on time and cost, and there's no set formula process for doing things right now. It's going to take a little while to get there. I'll give you an example because I work for the federal government. I'm going to create a hypothetical example because I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. As a public servant, I can tell you the federal government is generally speaking, is a lot better run than you think. The U.S. federal government is a lot better run than you think. Certainly better run than people give it credit for. But it's still a bureaucracy. And there are all sorts of rules and red tape that make it very difficult for the government to really deliver goods and services at a scale or in a way that you could do privately. So that's not a statement about the role of government. Sometimes it's better that you have the government do something, even if it's not as good as the private sector, because it's important for everybody. Sometimes not. That is a political question. This is not about politics. This is about how government runs and why you shouldn't worry about crypto. I'll give you an example, hypothetical example. You wake up one day, this is how the government runs. You wake up one day, you're thinking about your dear departed grandmother, and your mom sends you a picture. Oh, remember grandma? You think this is a really nice picture. It'd be nice to keep this as a keepsake. It may be something that you put up on your wall, right? A lot of people, right? Dearly departed family member, somebody you really care about, you put the picture on the wall. Very normal thing. At least it is for a lot of people that I know. So here's how it would happen. So if it was you, it would just be, okay, you get the picture framed, maybe you print it out, whatever, you get the picture framed, and then you put a nail in the wall, maybe use a hanging wire, maybe you use a little clip or a hook or something, and you put the picture up. Once you get that frame, the whole thing takes a good 20 seconds. And you're done. And it's up. That's private sector. That's you, right? Now, if it were the government doing that, and you came and here's how it would start. You would come to your boss, you would say, hey boss, you know what I was thinking? Here's why. I was thinking we should have a picture of my grandma on the wall. And here's why. And so you bullet out the reasons why. And those reasons have to be justified. So the boss says, well, okay, fine. No problem. Go ahead. Get your picture together. Oh, no, the next step would be, okay, that's great. Let's put forward a formal proposal. Right? So your boss would go to his or her boss and just check in. And his or her boss would say yes or no. Right? Let's say the boss says yes. Oh, that's fine. That's great. We'll put him in it. So then boss would come back to you and say, okay, go for it. So would you just go and get your hammer, nail, and wire and put up a picture? No. What you would do is your response is, okay, that's great. Where do I get the hammer? Where do I get the nail? And who do I need to talk to make sure that we're okay for doing this? Because somebody else has the hammer. It's a different agency, different department, different chain of command. Somebody else has the nails or the hook. And everything that you need is somewhere else because that's the way the government works. So you go to the guy with the hammer. You have your own hammer, but you have to go to the guy the guy responsible in the government for having the hammer. Because by law, you as a person cannot give anything to the federal government. It's a law. There's a good reason for it, not relevant to this video. But that's the law. You can't provide things. You can't give anything to the government for free. Well, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but at least in terms of like doing your job and getting the business of the people done, you can't give anything of your own, your stuff to the federal government. You can't use your stuff for the federal government without a very specific authorization in very specific circumstances. And if hanging up a picture is not one of those circumstances, which is not, here's what you do. So you go to the guy who has the hammers. You say, hey, I'm putting in a picture. You go to the guy who has the nails. Hey, I'm putting in a picture. You go to the guy who has the wire. Hey, I'm putting him in a picture. right? Maybe you email all three of them, maybe you separate phone. How you do it is not important. Maybe they need a justification memo. They'll tell you what they need in order for you to get a hammer, nail, and a wire. So by the time you do that, a day goes by, 2 weeks go by, maybe even a month before they get back to you. You may have to do a follow-up phone call. You may have to escalate to your boss, who will talk to their boss in a week at a meeting, at some like staff meeting, and then their boss will get back to that person, who will then get back to you. But let's say everything happens instantly, right? You got it. Got a hammer, got a nail, got a wire. No problem, Mark. Go ahead. Now you have to go back to your boss and say, hey, I got everything. Here's what happened. Here are all the materials that I have. I'm going to go and put up this picture. And your boss is going to say, that's great. But before you do that, let's run this past the other people in the office. Let's make sure we get their input and feedback before they do that. And so you put together a presentation, you do at the next staff meeting. It's 2 weeks away. And then you present it at a staff meeting. And you can't say, hey, this is my beloved grandmother. When I wake up and I see her picture, it puts me in a good mood. And I like her. And I want to remember her. No, you can't say that. You say, you have to make it relevant to whatever the office needs or the people need, right? So you have to say, this is my dearly beloved grandmother. And when I see her, it makes me feel good, and that helps me be more productive at work. It's also something where if you want to put up a picture of your grandmother, this is a great, or anybody else that you like, anybody else who's really meaningful to you. It makes you feel good to see them. Well, maybe you could do that too. And I'll test this out. I'll pilot it. Make sure that it works. Make sure that we know what the process is, so that if that's something you want to do, you can do it, or whatever other justification you have. It can't be about you. It has to be about something else, right? Or it's the benefit for the people, right? Does other people benefit? Whatever it is. And assuming you get the buy-in, let's assume you get the buy-in. Okay, now maybe you have to tweak it. Well, that's fine, but I just don't know. I know you like this frame color, but I like it in pink. I like it in pink. I really want to change it to pink. Well, it's nice that it's pink. That's great. But I see it's a wood frame. I don't want to be known. People are going to see that and they're going to say, oh, you're killing trees. You're killing trees for a picture. So how about we do a metal frame? Whatever it is. Okay, so now you spent maybe, in real life, you spent maybe a month getting all the materials, the supplies, approvals, everything. Another few weeks to go and get, input from everybody. Maybe you make changes, maybe not. I guess it really depends on the situation. Finally, you're ready to put up the picture. And what happens? Congress passes a law that says everybody who does a picture is going to now need to put in 2 nails instead of 1. And so you have to go back and do it all over again. And that is how the federal government works. So instead of taking 20 seconds with your own materials to put up a picture, you spend 2 months going through the federal bureaucracy and you still don't get your picture. That is how the government works. So do you really think that the federal government, that hasn't even started working on a central bank digital currency, that hasn't done any implementations of any kind using cryptocurrency, do you really think that they are going to get where they want to go faster than the private sector, you and me and developers are going to be able to get there? It's not going to happen. It's not. And it almost never happens. It almost never happens. So don't worry about that, at least from the U.S. government. Don't worry about that. There are other things to worry about. Bans, bad language, bad laws, things like that. We already have some of those. Not bans, but we do have some bad language on the books. So, those kind of things, yeah, those you have to worry about. But in terms of worrying, the federal government is going to step in, the CBCDs is going to kill stable coins, this and that. Maybe. It's possible. And I wouldn't discount it over the longer time frame, years, right? Stable coins, maybe they prove their worth, and then the government says, well, we're really screwing up this CBCD, or maybe they haven't even started yet. It's 5 years later, and they're not where they want to go. And so maybe there is a move to, either co-op stable coins or integrate that in some way where the government does have a role. And that can be good or bad. We don't know. It's all speculative. It's hypothetical. I'm not an anti-government person, but I understand there are a lot of times government gets involved and it's not good. For all the things they do that are good, there are a lot of things that are not good. I wouldn't worry about that getting in the way of crypto and its development right now. But some of those laws, some of those rules, yeah, okay. But let's see what happens there. We got an executive order. It's going to take 9 months, or I guess 8 months now, about 8 months now, for the agencies to put together their report. It's going to take a few more months after that to collect public comments, proposed rules, other things that go into actual implementing any changes. Congress is getting more and more up to speed about what's going on with crypto. So there are a lot of things that can change. And then, there's the whole geopolitical issue, which that's not necessarily my bailiwick, but in a nutshell, when you see other countries or people in other countries, businesses, groups of people, even if they're not businesses, militaries, for example, governments, for example, which we're seeing now. When you see those entities using crypto, well, there might be some urgency, there might be a new sense of urgency, or there might be some, something about the way that evolves in a foreign policy where there's either a risk or an opportunity that in geopolitical opportunity, a risk or an opportunity that may come into play. So, you got to look out for that too. There's just a lot of things that we need to be concerned about. The federal government getting in the way of crypto from any government action is not one of them. Just watch out for those rules, watch out for those laws.